You know, in the world of politics, words can be weapons. And in a recent social media post, former President Donald Trump took direct aim at TV host Bill Maher. It's a pretty fascinating exchange that says a lot about our current media landscape. So today we're going to break down this very public feud. It all really kicked off with these 5 words: a total waste of time. Now, this was Donald Trump's take on a private dinner he'd hosted for Bill Maher. But this wasn't just some casual remark. It was actually the opening shot in a really detailed critique he posted on Truth Social, and it was definitely designed to get people talking. So what prompted this public slam? To really get what's going on with this post, we've got to look at the context behind that dinner meeting in the first place. The whole back and forth happened right on Trump's own platform, Truth Social. And it's all about a dinner that happened last year, but it was something that happened just recently that brought all these memories and criticisms right back to the surface. Right, so this Truth Social post didn't just appear out of thin air. It was a direct response to a comment Maher made just last week. But the whole story really starts with that private dinner from a year ago. Let's walk through the timeline. The sequence of events here is really key. It starts last year with a dinner. Then, just last week, Maher pokes fun at a comment Trump made. And that joke is what seems to have led to the very direct, very detailed social media response we're talking about now. And this was it. This was the trigger. On his show, Real Time, Maher really went in on a comment Trump made about China and Canadian ice hockey. In his post, Trump said Maher just kept ridiculing the statement, calling it foolish. For Trump, this was apparently the last straw, and it pushed him to go public with his side of the story. So how exactly did Trump frame his response? Well, his post was basically a two-pronged attack. He went after Maher's personal behavior and his professional credibility. Let's decode what he said. Okay, so the first part of the attack was really personal. Trump painted this picture of Maher contrasting his confident on-screen personality with the guy he says he met in private. He described him as being super anxious and nervous inside the Oval Office. Trump's post got into some really specific, vivid details. He claimed Maher asked for a vodka tonic right away to calm his nerves, and even quoted him saying, "I'm actually scared." What's interesting is that Trump said he didn't see this supposed nervousness as a weakness, but actually found it somewhat endearing. So after that personal story, the post pivots from Maher's character to his career. Trump then launches this direct hit on Maher's HBO show Real Time, going after its ratings, its politics, and basically Maher's overall relevance. And his professional criticisms were sharp. He claimed the show's ratings are so low, called it boring and anti-Trump, and labeled Maher himself a highly overrated lightweight. He even gave a little direction to his own party, telling Republicans to stop quoting Maher like he's some kind of reasonable voice on the left. And finally, Trump offered up his own diagnosis for Maher's criticism: Trump derangement syndrome. Now, this is a term he uses all the time to frame any opposition to him, not as a simple political disagreement, but as this kind of irrational, obsessive hatred of him personally. What's also pretty interesting is that Trump took the time to place Maher among his late-night peers. He basically lumped him in with hosts like Kimmel, Fallon, and Colbert. His conclusion? That while Maher might be slightly more talented, he's ultimately no different from the others he sees as being totally against him. So, okay, beyond all the back and forth in the political theater, why should we even take a closer look at this feud? Well, this whole exchange is a perfect snapshot of how politics, celebrity, and the media all crash into each other these days. You might look at this and think, it's just a celebrity spat, right? But when one of those people is a former and maybe future president, it really elevates the whole thing. It becomes a case study in how political communication and media strategy work right now. So what are the big takeaways here? First, it really shines a light on the often hostile relationship between politicians and the media. Second, it's a classic example of using social media as a direct line to your audience, a way to bypass traditional news and control your own story. Third, it shows a tactic of using these personal, behind-the-scenes stories to try and discredit an opponent in public. And finally, it just shows how polarized our media is, where it feels like public figures have to be either for you or against you, with almost no middle ground. And all this leaves us with a really important question. In these public wars of words, who's actually winning? Is the point to try and win over people in the middle, or is it just about firing up your own base? As those lines between media and politics get blurrier and blurrier, it's definitely a question worth thinking about. Thanks for tuning in for this explainer.